Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win, find yourself a way to lose, and you can find a way to turn off fans, especially women. You know what I'm saying? Now, when it comes to Claressa Shields, Alicia Baumgartner, Caroline DeBar, Chantel Cameron, Ellie Scottney, Trinica Johnson, Franchon Cruz-Zern, Shadesha Green, Alicia Baumgartner. I mean, Katie Taylor Serrano's. I mean, the list goes on and on. There's so many female fighters right now. Too many to name. But with time, I'll get to them all, and I'll be able to do videos on all of them, not just on the bigger names. But one thing I think all women can learn from what's going on right now is when it comes to boxing, and when it comes to attitude, and when it comes to the example that you're setting, the female fans. You know, most of us guys, we don't give a shit. The female fans, though, they're paying attention. And once they decide they're done with you, and they say enough is enough, there's no coming back from that. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at the women out here, and I'm listening. And yeah, I do my videos, and I make jokes. And I'm not going to change the way I do business. Some videos be serious. Some will be humorous. And that's just the way I operate. But from listening, I'm just watching, and I'm telling you, the women have reacted negatively to everything Claressa has done up until this point, and they don't seem to be slowing down. Matter of fact, in the last week, there were women who were trying to hold on, trying to see something good in Claressa, trying to still be supportive. And I hear a lot of them talk, especially when they talk about, well, because she's a lady. All races of women I hear saying that, well, she's a woman, we need to support her. Then you hear the women who happen to be black. As a black woman, we need to support her. Even as professional athletes, irregardless of race. But she's an athlete. It's hard for us as athletes. We all need to still support her. But when you hear them now saying, oh, we can't do it no more. We can't do it. Her public behavior, her tone, her messaging has reshaped our perception to seeing her the same way the majority of people see her, who she feels are just her detractors, her haters, or as she would call them, broke bums. And this is why, for me, I'm trying to understand the psychological impact when it comes to how she's influenced people to like and dislike, well, to like her and now dislike her. How there's always so much conflict and the poor representation as a champion, as a human being, coming from Shields. So it's almost like doing a central case study, and doing that alongside figures like Layla Ali, Shadesha, Franchon Cruz-Zern, the Katie Taylors, Amanda Serranos, the Christy Martins, the Ann Wolfs. It really is interesting to try to formulate a presentation that can capture all of that. And if I can encapsulate that in a presentation, I think it's good for me because, this shit is interesting to me. Everybody knows that. But what we know is when it comes to boxing, I think every single human being who's a fighter, I think they want to be great. I think they all want greatness. You hear them talk about titles, talk about the skills, talk about their work ethic, talk about the sacrifices they made and they make, and talk about the accomplishments that they want. But in today's world, that's only part of the story. Because what I think some of these fighters have failed to realize is that, look, you're a public figure. You're an influencer, whether you want to be or not. And you're a representative of the sport. That's for men and women. But when the perception shifts, and it can shift fast. I mean, the perception shifts so fast, all you hear is pew. And when you start hearing that pew shit, or you hear that beep beep, like the road runner and Wile E. Coyote, you know that's fast. And when the perception starts to shift and you hear pew, it's over. Because see, success meets expectation. And when that happens, you got to know what to do with it. You know what I'm saying? There's a weight on being the face of anything. Now, I'm going to be real here. Some of y'all don't want to hear it. You might as well click off now. Claressa, I think there was a stretch where I think she was becoming the face of women's boxing. Some people right now think she's the face of women's boxing. I don't see it that way because I look at whole person concept. But I can understand the argument on her being the face of women's boxing, right? Because you know I'm fair. But I don't see it that way because I look at more than just the greatness inside the ring. I look at the greatness outside the ring. But for someone like Claressa Shields, the Olympic success, the championships, multiple weight divisions, you know, we understand that those achievements don't bring just the recognition. You know what I'm saying? It brings an expectation, and this is where I know the women are frustrated because they're like, she doesn't get it, hood. She just doesn't get it. She just doesn't care. And when they talk about that expectation, a lot of the women are like, you got to understand, we as women expect more from her as a champion. The women in sports who I hear talking say the same thing. We as professional athletes expect more from her. From the younger fans are saying they expect more from her. And then there are just the casual fans, casual supporters who are looking for representation, much better representation than was being put out. But there's a huge expectation gap. Some fans expect leadership. Look, let me tell you something. Not everybody can be a leader. You know what I'm saying? Fans expect unity. Not everyone knows how to bring people together. And some fans expect support of others in the same space. Look, not everybody is cool with seeing somebody surpass them. Not everybody is cool with building other champions. And that's interesting because you see something happening right now with Claressa Shields and Caroline Dubois, and people are watching that shit like a hawk. They want to see if Claressa is really going to support Caroline Dubois since they're all in the same space. Well, they're both in the same space, boxing, professional boxers. Is she going to support her in a way to where she's going to help her surpass her and then praise her? Or is she going to have a little Mayweather in her where she's going to be like, yeah, she's doing good, but she ain't doing like me, you know, because right now people aren't accustomed to seeing Claressa try to build somebody up and be happy for their success. Somehow she brings it back to herself. But I can tell you is when people start to perceive the opposite of something positive, that's where tension begins. And for the ladies, me listening to them, that's where the tension started. Well, it actually started back when her and this shit about her and Remy and that relationship and how she ended up with PAPOOSE. But talking just boxing, that's where a lot of the tension begins because they expect more from her and they feel like she's just getting worse. Now, there is a perception of conflict within women's boxing. A lot of public disputes, a lot of criticism, you know what I'm saying? Claressa out here, disagreements with fighters, insulting them. Yeah, y'all all right, y'all are okay, but y'all aren't me. Like, just breaking down women who have done great things in the sport. Even going at Christy Martin, Layla Ali, said things about, you know, even about, what's her name, Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, you know, Baumgartner. Just a lot of negative energy. And for most people, they see it as more than just a rivalry. You know what I'm saying? And then those who are no longer supporting Claressa, where they're like, enough is enough, they were first arguing, like, hold on, you guys are wrong, hood. That's just competitive energy. You should know. You are an athlete. You should know about competitive energy. And I'm like, I hear you. That's your opinion. And I said, but I see it as personal disrespect. And now those same individuals who are arguing that Claressa just has competitive energy, they're now saying enough is enough. You're right. It's personal disrespect to everyone around her, and also disrespecting herself, because she should know better than to go on these shows and be openly talking about some of the things that she's talking about. And you guys know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? The things that you should just keep between yourself and whoever you're with. But this hits differently. You know what I mean? It hits differently. Because even I know in men's boxing, conflict is often expected. I get it. In women's boxing, many fans hope for visible camaraderie alongside competition. They expect some chippiness. But Claressa has even pushed the conflict barrier way beyond what the men have done. It's an extreme case. And that's why women are saying, you know what, enough is enough. And that's why you get a result that ends up being, when the conflict appears, whether it's personal or prolonged, fans start feeling disappointed and they're not entertained. That's why when Claressa was on that damn interview the other day with Melissa Ford, nobody was entertained by that. Most people weren't entertained by that shit. They were more disappointed and disgusted. And I'm going off of the feedback I received, direct, immediate feedback. They're like, no, this ain't it. Hard watching it. Why is she talking like that? Why is she sitting there with her leg crossed like that? Why is she dressed like that? What is she doing? Seems forced. Doesn't seem genuine. She's trying to come off as articulate and professional, but at the same time, she's still being nasty and disrespectful. She's still out here making fun of different fighters. She's still out here finding a way to brag and talk about money and talk about her being thick and talking about her man and talking about fighting and violence. They're like, what? We're just disappointed. Now with me, I tell you, the whole thing's interesting to me. I don't like Claressa. I don't dislike her. She's a central case study theme for me. And it's interesting. But I did struggle, but I got through that interview she did with Melissa Ford. And like we were talking last night, that interview she did with Melissa Ford, to me, it was just like the interview, her most recent interview done with the Breakfast Club. It's like you get her on there and just keep setting traps and letting her go to say crazy shit or do crazy shit to where you get these viral moments and you get views and clicks. And when I watch, I've been saying this for months. Everybody on the channel know I've been saying this. I'm like, wherever she goes, people, I don't think they genuinely care about her. I think they really just want clicks and views. Now, I'm going to tell you this. Claressa Shields, she has it out for content creators, and I can't blame her. You know, she's frustrated, she's tired, but she's giving people reason to create content on her. She said she wanted to own the internet. Okay, well, now that you own the internet, you know, everybody has invested in you. You know what I'm saying? You wanted to own the internet. You wanted people to talk about you, and everybody is talking about you. And they are milking the quote. They're getting their money. You got to be internet famous, right? A lot of people know her more for the internet bullshit than for boxing, which is crazy. But don't complain now. It's what you wanted. But at the same time, I do think her coming on different platforms for content creators who genuinely want to talk to her about things outside of the drama, I think you can get a different feel for her, because the conversation won't be around the drama. But everybody else wants the drama. So same content creators where she talk about she want to hit them over the head with a wine bottle, those are the content creators to where she may get a much better interview. There's only, I don't know many that really would have a conversation with her and not talk about the drama outside of myself. But I do think there may be some out there who'll say, okay, look, we ain't gonna talk about the drama, we ain't gonna talk about this. Let's just really have a conversation about you. But at the end of the day, I can't blame anybody for not wanting to have a conversation that's more constructive because they feel disappointed in her. They're tired of her. They don't like her. The entertainment piece is gone now. You see, there were moments of sensitivity, but then there's the public reaction. Those who are still sitting here feeling that Claressa Shields could be something different than what she's shown, they're looking at the situation involving the injuries behind Franchon and Shadisha. That sparked strong emotional reaction from fans, and I feel I'm qualified to say that because of the women on my channel and the men who come on there whenever I go live at night and we talk. Because what they saw, they said, okay, you got someone visibly hurt. First of all, they saw with Franchon, the shove happened. She was hyped up to do the shove by PAPOOSE, is what Franchon said. Claressa shoves her, Franchon's like, whatever. Then Franchon's husband and a bunch of melee ensues. Anyway, the whole damn stage gets torn down. You got a bunch of chaos. But what ended up happening is Franchon, in the midst of everything, she ended up getting injured. We all know that. She got in the ring. Most of us didn't recognize her because of how big she was. But at the weigh-in, she looked really nice. Really, really, really streamlined. But long story short, Claressa took an opportunity to make fun of her. She's a friend for over 15 years. Now she doesn't have that. And she even went on that show with Melissa Ford and was, again, making fun of Franchon. And she's not even supposed to talk about her. So we'll see what happens there because she shouldn't even have talked. She shouldn't have mentioned her name. And then with Shadisha Green, her and Shadisha had patched up their relationship and was supposed to be back in a very good rapport with each other. And then for Shadisha to go in there, you know, at first, not many understood what happened. We just know Shadisha, like she got TKO'd. And all of us understood people who are Claressa supporters talking trash because it comes with the territory. Because if Claressa would have got knocked out, all the Shadisha Green supporters would have talked trash. But what ended up happening is the audience shifted when they realized that Shadisha collapsed on her stool and a stretcher was brought in the ring, and Claressa continued celebrating and laughing at Shadisha. You see, this is where Claressa and her team, I don't think they fully comprehend this. These women who are watching boxing, the men too, but really the women who are watching boxing, watching Claressa, watching Franchon, watching Shadisha, watching all the ladies, when someone is visibly hurt, the audience shifts into empathy mode. And if responses are perceived as dismissive, insensitive, poorly timed, it can trigger backlash, and that's exactly what happened. The way she responded to all that triggered immediate backlash. And it hasn't stopped. Matter of fact, the backlash was so severe that a lot of her diehard supporters have turned their back on her. And I can tell you, people are like, well, why would reactions intensify? Because fans expect humanity first, rivalry second. We know this is boxing. Those of us who put gloves on have been punched in the face and punched people in the face. We understand rivalry. Trying to knock each other out in there. But once the round is over, the sparring's done or the fight's done, you dap it up and you sit back and you talk a little shit to each other about what you did good, whatever, what shit landed a good shot. I'm glad your ass got tired. This is like joking that you do with each other. I'm just telling you from experience. But you expect the humanity to show and the rivalry second. And with Claressa, that's not what happened. And as a result, the women are saying enough is enough. Now, her language, her tone, her image. Women are paying attention to the communication style as well. With Claressa, she's direct, unfiltered. As a result, the communication, some would say, yo, she's just authentic, man. She's just honest. But then when you show a pattern of being direct, unfiltered, and you just don't give a shit, well, they're going to see you as a poor communicator. And now you may feel you're being misinterpreted, but they're like, look, you're consistently behaving this way. This is what you are. Don't expect me to come out here talking about who, what, when, where, why, how. No. I can answer all those because I can just look at you and how you performed over the last couple of years as far as your communication efforts. We know that you're not being misinterpreted. You're just a mean ass. You're harsh. You're aggressive. You're callous. That is what you are at your core. So don't get mad when people come out here saying these things. If you want them to say something different and say something nice, well, how about you do something different? You be nice. Because, see, you got to understand the psychology of tone. I made a joke about this back in the day. You see somebody in the morning at work. This is real shit, I'm telling you. And you say good morning. And they be like, yeah, huh, good morning. What's so good about this morning? Huh? What you in there? And it's like, yo, easy, McNicholas. Hold your horses. Don't take it to the stupid. I say good morning to you, and you having a bad morning. Yeah, well, good morning. Good to you. Ain't good to me. It's like, God damn. Your tone is all messed up. Must have had you a bowl of dumbass for breakfast. But there's a big difference in saying hello and then see somebody and you say hello to them. They go, uh-huh. The tone, they just blow you off. You tell someone, we used to brief, do a lot of briefings. And we had one guy used to be chairing the briefings, and he would go around the room and he'd be like, okay, next. All right, you next. And he'd say, hey, you ready? Okay, go ahead and brief. And he was cool. We were all cool with it. Then he had the other guy. He said the same thing. Next, you, right? Yeah, you, next. Saying the same thing, but his tone. And we be sitting there like, man, fuck you, man. Because his tone was crazy. But people don't just react to what's said is what I'm getting at. It's how it feels. And in those meetings, that one guy, Colonel Asshole, his tone was ridiculous. I tell you, matter of fact, this is true shit, and this is what's happening with Claressa. We would get in there sometimes and omit information because he had to take out the information we giving him and go to another briefing and relay that shit to them. And we would intensely omit shit to make him go fall on his face. And we'd give the information to other people so they could brief the shit that he's supposed to know and make him look stupid. And you may say, well, damn, that's wrong. Well, that's what happens when you're out here making people feel a kind of way with your words. You would never know what's going on behind the scenes to bring your ass down. And that's what's happening with Claressa Shields. In my opinion, this is my opinion. But for those who want to defend her, I'll just say this. How do you defend somebody who's displaying repeated patterns of poor communication, of poor attitude? And you want to question an audience? If you got 100 people in the audience and 99 of them saying the same thing, it's probably not the audience. Because the women are looking at Claressa and they're saying, okay, repeated conflicts, repeated harsh language, repeated personal remarks. So they start to begin forming a consistent narrative, and that's what's happening with the ladies. They're like, enough is enough. And then they're looking at her personal life and public perception. Personal narratives matter, man. Like, that's the biggest thing that I've picked up off of all this. Public relationships, personal situations, that shit with her and PAPOOSE and Remy, and now she want a Pap Jr. and you know that's never gonna go away. The women don't like that. They don't like that. They're looking at her. They have all kind of little colorful adjectives they use to describe her, which I'll just let y'all watch the other content creators' channels and my channels when I go live and listen to what the ladies have to say. I'm not here to repeat that. But I think the public relationship and personal situations can either humanize an athlete or can create controversy. With Claressa, I think initially, just what we learned about her in her movie, it humanized her, you know what I'm saying? But then you start to learn more about her and the stuff she has going on with her attitude, the way she represents herself in this relationship. It just creates a lot of controversy, man. You see, the reality is this. Fans They don't just evaluate performance, they also evaluate choices. They evaluate behavior, alignment with their values. I listen to the ladies. They're like, yo, she can do what she wants, but then she got to deal with the consequences. It's her choice. They're like her behavior. She can come out here and behave how she wants, but that's why she doesn't seem to be getting the opportunities. Someone with those kind of accomplishments, why isn't she a gazillionaire, like her champion says? Because of her behavior. Attitude. That's why. Because you figure if the way Claressa is conducting herself and the choices she's making, if it's not aligning with the values of the majority of the women out there, surely can't be aligning with the values of people in these large companies and different entities who may have taken an interest in her. But once they learn about it, like, nah. Yes, she got the resume and she's an outstanding athlete, but she doesn't align with our core values. We don't want this representing our brand. And that's just the reality, people. It's not just about your performance on the field, on the track, on the court, in the ring. It's your performance outside of that. And that's something that some people, by the time they realize it's too late, like Adrian Broner. He should have been a billionaire. He talking that about billion shit. He should have been a billionaire. The dude had it, man. Women liked him, men liked him because he was charismatic. He had personality. He was crazy. He could fight. He was outgoing. He had old white men dancing. Broner just had that personality, real fun personality. But, hey, outside the ring, he made some bad choices. And look where he ended up. And it's really unfortunate. But that's one dude who could have, no kidding, become a billionaire. He had it. He had it, man. And he was athletic. The dude had it. But anyway, there's a psychological effect, man. Because when public figures are seen as crossing social or moral expectations, it can lead to judgment, emotional reactions, and division among supporters. And that's exactly what's happening there with Claressa Shields and like the aforementioned Adrian Broner. I just think when people get certain type of power, influence, it comes with responsibility. I think the core issue, somebody has a platform, when they have influence, when they have visibility, people expect them to have some kind of intentional use of that power. But to use it to build champions, to build Claressa's favorite word, camaraderie, to bring people together. You know what I'm saying? To keep moving up the ladder, not to reverse. But when you have that platform and you use it for all the wrong things, being offensive, being toxic, attacking people, breaking people down, insulting people, bragging about what you have, people are not going to respect that. When you're using your influence to go out there and have another female fighter start putting on wigs, using excessive profanity, being aggressive towards people, you know, that hurts. Not just, it hurts them more than you because people already don't like you. But Caroline DeBar, the UK is turning on her as we speak. And it's sad to watch that unfold. It's sad to watch that unfold. You know, hey, they're big women, can do what they want. But then as far as the visibility, when you're in a position like that, everybody's watching you. You should want the people to run to you, to want autographs, the people to want to put you on their shoulders and parade you around the town. That's not what happens. Because you have this power, but a lot of people feel that it's being abused or not being respected. That's because humans have a psychological perspective, and I think they naturally look for leaders. When you're in positions like Claressa Shields, you expect them to be role models when they're in positions like Claressa Shields, and you expect them to be ambassadors of the sport, representatives of the sport. You know what I'm saying? And not a poor representative, you know, something positive. But when influence feels misused, some fans feel frustrated and angry. And that's the point that many of the fans are at with Claressa. And that's what women are saying, enough is enough. We don't care. We're tired. You can have all the influence in the world. If it's being used for conflict rather than connection, that's a problem. And I'm just asking a question. It's just my opinion. Y'all don't have to agree with me. Do you feel Claressa has used her influence more for conflict or she's used it more for connection? I'll just throw that out there. You can leave that in the comments. And I feel this matters for women specifically. Representation in women's sports carries additional weight. And we know it's hard for women out there. We know it is. Hood Champion recognizes it, ladies. It's hard. Visibility is still growing, but unity can accelerate growth, which is not happening. And division can slow momentum. Claressa wants to be the face of women's boxing, but I'll just say this. How does she think someone's going to make her the face of women's boxing when she's out here dividing and slowing the momentum? She's not creating unity to accelerate growth. She's creating divide to slow things down. And when I listen to the women, they're like, there's no way in the world that Claressa is the face of anything, because she's slowing the momentum and she's putting women in a bad spotlight and making people feel that all women, female boxers, and first all women, but then you got to throw the racial element in there too. That they act this way, they think this way, they behave this way. This is why Caroline DeBar has to be careful, Alicia Baumgartner has to be careful, and all the women, but especially those who happen to be minorities, especially black women. Because Claressa is out here reinforcing stereotypes every time she gets in front of the camera with her bullshit. Look, there's a concentric few who conduct themselves the way Claressa do, and then with other races, there's a concentric few who conduct themselves the way women of other races who act that way behave. The majority don't act that way, and that's why you see women saying enough is enough. They're like, man, don't put that jacket on us. No way. And that's why they're out here reacting strongly, because they understand the identity. They understand the representation. And as the women sit back watching, they see themselves reflected in athletes. And they want the athletes to see themselves reflected in the common, everyday man or woman, especially for women. And they're like, at least represent us honorably. But when that reflection feels negative, that's why women are saying enough is enough. That there's disappointment, there's frustration, there's strong emotional response. And there's a much deeper psychology. People often react more strongly when someone they want to support doesn't meet expectations. And no matter how long you're there, just trying to support them, you get to the point to where you can't. The person just takes everything out of them until eventually their eyeballs pop out. We call that shit sucking out your eyeball, where a person just takes advantage of you to where you have nothing left to give and your eyeballs pop out. Because you're not meeting the expectations. But anyway, you got to strike the right balance between showmanship and knowing when to turn it on, knowing when to turn it off. And that creates a balance between authenticity and impact, being real versus being strategic. And there's a constant tension between authentic expression, which we respect people who are themselves, but we also respect those who recognize, hey, I got a public responsibility to balance this shit. You know what I mean? And that's just one of the realities of modern sports. The most widely embraced athletes tend to compete fiercely, communicate carefully, and build rather than divide. Does Claressa Shields compete fiercely? Yes, she checks the box. Does she communicate carefully? Negative. Does she build rather than divide? Negative. So we talk about widely embraced athletes. That's why she's not widely embraced. She's become widely disliked to the point where some say hate. So can the perception change? I say no, but majority would say yes. But they're like, Hood, it requires a few things. Consistency over time. She has to be consistent. If she can be consistent, then the perception can change. And I'm like, yeah, well, hold your horses. Let's not take it to the stupid. And also, don't hold your breath. because I don't see it changing. I see it getting worse, especially if PAPOOSE, if the two of them go separate ways. Because you talk about the public humiliation she's going to endure. It's going to be something that we've never seen. It's going to be a tsunami of hate and trolling that floods the internet to drown Claressa in hurt and misery. And to sit back and watch that shit real time is going to be, for some people, a moment to celebrate. For others, it's going to be sad. Like with me, I ain't going to like to see it, but hey, I didn't like hearing her disrespect Shadesha either. I ain't like seeing how she went at Franchon, and y'all know I definitely don't like how she went at Layla, but disrespect Muhammad Ali's name just to try to get a fight. I thought that shit was just the most. That's an extreme case of being desperate for a fight. That was fucked up. But the bottom line is, some do feel that perception can change, but it requires consistency over time, thoughtful communication, and clear alignment between words and actions. So, I guess I'll say this. Perception is not fixed, but it's built slowly, and it changes slowly. But that would take a whole lot of work, and I just don't see it happening. So, I'm about to go fishing now, like I've been telling y'all. I just want to get this video out there, and I'm still going to do the video on Rosado and Trinica Johnson when I come back. But I just want to throw this out there, give y'all a little something to mull over on a Friday. Just understand the conversation is bigger than one athlete. We talk a lot about Claressa because, I mean, there's just so much shit to talk about. But it's really about how success, behavior, and perception interact. And you can apply that to every athlete, every person, everybody. Are they successful? Cool. What about the behavior? It's shitty, involved with drama. They want to blame everybody for their situation. They want to come and lie and all that. You can't respect a person like that. And then bring the perception, roll that into the mix, and interact them all. That's what you got. Success, behavior, and how perception interact. And when you take that and you talk about someone like Claressa Shields, look, I don't even like talking about it no more because I've said it so many times. The accomplishments are undeniable. They're undeniable, man. The confidence is crystal clear. But the ongoing conversation shows in today's world, influence isn't just about winning. It's about your connection with the people, your connection with yourself, your connection with your fellow athletes. Talks about your perception of yourself, the perception of the people, the perception of the athletes, your fellow athletes. And then the impact your behavior has on yourself, has on the people, the fans, and what it has on your fellow athletes. And if you understand that, you can understand why fans are saying enough is enough, and they have turned against Claressa Shields. Even those Gwodies who wake up in the morning and have a big bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, even they eating cornflakes now and say, "Nah, we can't do this shit. Cinnamon Toast Crunch, we done with it. Hood champion, you're right. Fried rice and chicken wings. No duck sauce." Smart people. In the breed.